Hello and welcome to the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show. It's me, Kamal, your host for the show. Now, you're probably thinking, what on earth is Kamal doing going live at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Well, let me explain, or do I need to explain? Obviously, the football's happening this evening. So that's why we've had to reschedule today's show. I have taken a break for a couple of weeks, but I'm really glad to be back and really, really excited to be having some super interesting conversations over the next few weeks or so. If you're joining me live, wherever you're joining me from, whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, then do say hi in the comments. And if you're watching this later on, then just drop a little hashtag replay and let me know that you were here and you watched us live. So if you don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Kamal. I am a former national level pharmacist turned pharmacy career change coach. And I'm on a mission to help pharmacists and pharmacy professionals to really grow their impact on their communities. And I do that in several ways. One of the key ways that I do that is through my one-to-one coaching with pharmacy professionals to really help you to create a career that you feel fulfilled by, do work that you absolutely love, and really create all that freedom and flexibility in your life. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest for today's show. I have got an amazing pharmacist, Jaineel Mistry, who is the founder of Thriving Scholar, which is a self-mastery and leadership coaching and training company. And he has 7 years background working in the pharma industry and the biotech space. And I'm really excited to speak to him and learn more about his story and why he's taken the leap to really explore his purpose and develop this amazing, amazing company for himself. So without further ado, let me bring him on screen. Hi, Janil.
Hey, Kamal.
How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very well, thanks. I was just listening to your introduction. I was like, oh my God, I wish I met you a few years ago.
Oh, that's such a kind thing to say. I'm so pleased. Yeah, well, you know what? Seeing as you've mentioned that, why don't you start with your career story and tell us how you've basically got to where you've got to?
Yeah, this could be a whole half an hour story, but I'm going to cut it down as much as I could. So, I mean, I graduated from Nottingham, obviously did pharmacy, and then went, did my pre-reg at St. George's in London. And the whole reason why I did pharmacy, because I really had a dream of working in the pharmaceutical industry. I didn't know what that role was, but I just knew I wanted to do something in there. So I ended up, after having graduated and did my pre-reg, I went straight into industry and I worked in kind of market access, health economics, kind of consulting for pharma and biotech. And so I did that. I was employed for 4 years. And during that time, and it was great. I mean, my mind was like, oh my God, my dreams come true. And it was such a great experience for me, especially coming from a clinical background into a more commercial role. But then deep down inside, I thought, there's a niggling feeling that I felt a bit lost, a bit confused. I was like, okay, I've done this now. And now what? Is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And I was at a point where it wasn't really feeding me a lot of energy. And so I knew there was something different, but I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. And so that's when I went on a whole kind of journey of exploration and what it is I really wanted to do in the world. And, I started a blog, which is now transformed into a coaching company, a self-mastery company. So, yeah, that's my journey so far.
That's amazing. I mean, what was it like when you was kind of working in the pharma industry and you kind of hit that point where you were like, I'm not sure this is the right thing for me? Where were you at when that happened?
Yeah. Well, I think it was. I enjoyed it because I was focused on who I was becoming, and the kind of commercial side of it, and a lot of the skills which I was developing was skills which I didn't really learn when I was in the pharmacy world. But at the same time, there was one meeting which I had with one of my managers. It brings me back to this point where, it was probably the most deconstructive meeting I had in terms of my career. Someone telling me that there is a limit to how much I can achieve, and I can't get to this position by X amount of time. And I'm so grateful for that conversation, because it really opened up my eyes to actually, like, I've never had that told me to me before, right? And so I'm like, wow, like if I just, do I really want to be like this in this kind of position where there is some form of limit to what people are telling me, or do I want to take ownership and just kind of go out there and explore me and kind of internally, and then bring that out externally? So it was. I mean, I really enjoyed it, but there was something not right inside. I was like, there's something really small, but it was always consistent. So it wasn't. Yeah, I needed to act upon it.
You know what? When you talk about that, I can so relate to that, because I think so many of us kind of go through that point, right? And those difficult conversations where it's like, this is as far as you're going to get, and it's like, and it's a bit of a wake up call, because, you go into pharmacy and you think you're going to achieve all these amazing things, right?
Yeah.
And then to have someone say to you, yeah, you know what? This is about as good as it's going to get. It's really deflating, isn't it?
It is deflating, and it's deflating because we internally know that's not true. Like, deep down, we know that's not true. But when sometimes, I was in a position where, I was still, very young and early in my career, and I was like, is that true? Like, I was kind of believing that story, which someone more senior than me, someone more experienced, was telling me. I was like, okay, like. And so I knew that I had to come to my own realization. Well, actually, that's just a story that someone is telling me. I can take ownership and I can create my own story.
That's you know what? That's such an important learning, because a lot of the times we do put ourselves in this kind of like box of what we can achieve, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of live in that box until we reach a point at which we're like, something's not right. Something's still not right. I may have done the things that I thought I wanted to do, but there's still something that's missing from my life, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your blog then. How did that start, and what was the kind of trigger for that?
Yeah, I think it was at a point in my life where I realized, when I was asking myself questions about what it is that I wanted to do in the future, the questions which I was asking myself was, given my degree or given my experience, what can I do with that? And I found, and having reflected on that, I realized, well, actually, that's quite a limiting question, because I'm basically asking myself, given my past history, what can I do with my past? And I think I was in that, I was getting caught up in this kind of story where I was like, I've done pharmacy, I've done kind of things in the pharmaceutical industry. What can I do just with that? And it was limiting. And so I basically changed the question which I was asking myself as to, what would I love to create in the world? What do I want to do? And so that tapped into more of my kind of, as we all have our infinite creativity and we can do whatever we want. So I kind of put my question from the past into the future. And then, so the question I asked myself at that point, it was, if I died in a year's time, what is it that I would want to give to the world? And that's when I was in a position where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start a blog. And at that time I was reading a lot of books, and doing a lot of, personal development, professional development, leadership development stuff. And I just wanted to share this with the world, because in having been in pharmacy, in the pharmaceutical industry, there were certain experiences which I've had where maybe the leadership wasn't as what I would have liked it to be, or my own kind of experiences. And I thought, well, actually, there's a lot of need for this in the world. I would love to share this. I would love to make people's lives better, people's working lives better. And that just fed me a lot of energy. I just loved it. I wasn't getting paid for a blog. I was just doing it because I loved it. And so that's how that blog started, purely with that question.
Amazing. So tell me about the journey of this blog then, because what was the blog called even?
Well, it was called Thrive and Scholar, which is the name of the company. It was thriveandscholar.com. So I think I was in a position where, I was kind of enjoying my role in the pharmaceutical industry. I didn't need to make a shift immediately, and I think that was really helpful for me, because obviously we have responsibilities. We can't just make a shift straight away and like change complete. I mean, we can, but for me, it wasn't the right thing to do, and it was quite daunting. And so what I did, I just kind of did what fed me energy in the blog, just continued to go out to grow, and I was just putting out content. And I realized, well, actually, I'm just loving this more. And then the more deeper I went into it, the more I realized, well, actually, what is possible in this world. What other people are doing, which I can also do, and the more conversations I had, I just kind of explored possibilities, because sometimes, I would have got caught up in my own mind as to what is possible to create in this world, and for my career, and I only know what I know. But it's only when I get out of my own head and speak to other people, see what others are doing, see what is possible, then that led me to then explore kind of coaching and the stuff that I do now. And so yeah
Amazing. I mean, really kind of like putting yourself out there by writing a blog really was something that that you found a passion in, right? And by doing so, effectively you opened up new opportunities for yourself. And the thing that you said about really, like, you weren't prepared to quit your job, right? You were quite content with what you were doing, and you didn't really want to to just kind of jump ship, so to speak. And I think that's such an important lesson, because I think a lot of people sometimes feel like the current pain of the current place that I'm in means that I've got to get out of it. But I certainly would not encourage that in any way, shape or form. And I think it's so important for you to channel your energy in the right way. And instead of kind of thinking like, okay, well, the grass is green and I've just got to do something else, instead take that reflective step back. And that's kind of what I really encourage through the coaching that I do, because it's so important for you to take that step back and reorganize your time and your day in such a way that enables you to do that, and then find the thing that you really like doing, right?
And the way I looked at it for me was like, I had a short-term project and a long-term project. My long-term project was doing something, I don't know what it was going to be, but something in the personal development, leadership development industry. I didn't know what that looked like, but I just continued to follow that path. And then the short term, it was, well, actually, I did quit my job in 2017, and I just started my own consulting company and freelance as a consultant. And so that was my short-term kind of thing, which I actually love, because working in different companies and all that kind of stuff. And so I just asked myself the question, well, actually, as the next small step, what could I take? This was at a time when I was getting married and mortgage to pay and all this kind of stuff. So we had responsibilities, but I can't just move from one thing to another. And so that it was more like a step-by-step process. And so it's just about, sometimes we get caught up in wanting to make things happen so quickly, especially me. I'm very impatient. I want things happening straight away. And I really had to be patient with my journey. I'm laughing because I still need to be more patient right now.
But I think that's human nature as well, right? It is human nature that we want things to happen quickly, don't we? We totally underestimate the amount of time something's going to take us. And I think that it's just human. It's a human instinct to want things to happen straight away. And I think also the society that we live in now is like everything. So it feels so instant. We don't see the work that's gone on behind something. We just see the instant fame, and that kind of builds up this picture of what things could be like and how quickly they might happen. But in reality, you and I both know that that's not how it works.
100%.
It's definitely a work in progress, and it's definitely a journey, right? But the key thing is you've got to take that step towards the journey in the first place.
And just on that point, like taking that first step, and you mentioned putting yourself out there. For me, that required a lot of work, because for me to share content and put myself out there in this space of personal growth and whatever, it required me to come out of my academic educated ego, who has had a very successful career in the pharmaceutical industry, with people who may not know my true passion, but the people who are not used to me sharing these certain things, with my content. And so that required a lot of kind of inner growth, inner courage to actually put myself out there. And it's only once I put myself out there consistently, then I started attracting more opportunities. And so I think sometimes when we're caught up in our own shell, and we obviously we may worry about what people may think, or how people may judge us, because yes, I mean I'm from an Indian family, and being a pharmacist or being any kind of a medical professional is very highly thought of.
Yeah.
But then leaving the profession, or doing something maybe different, there are societal pressures that can play a role. And so whatever journey people go on, I think whether they change careers within pharmacy, or whether they take their pharmacy career and go into other areas of healthcare, I think that requires courage.
Definitely. It definitely requires courage. And in my experience, it also requires help. Because, otherwise trying to do it on your own can be a really lonely place.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was working with a number of different coaches, mentors at the time throughout this journey. Like, this journey of all the different transitions didn't happen overnight, but also didn't happen by myself in my own head. I had to kind of grow as a person, and that definitely needed kind of support and help, and that's invaluable. Otherwise, I could have spent 10 years in my own head.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and not got anywhere, right?
Yeah,
no, totally. So talk to me a little bit about what is Thriving Scholar, what do you do, what is the company, and what's your mission, what do you do?
Essentially, it's a self-mastery and leadership coaching company. And so what I mean by that is we work with a lot of working professionals and companies. And so with working professionals, it's more about helping people live a more purposeful, meaningful life. And that may mean, people who are transitioning into something which they want to really do, but also people who just want to lead more courageously at work, who really, who want to develop more confidence in leading in leadership positions, and then also performing at a high level. And by not kind of working hard to perform better, but also just kind of actually being more aligned with who they really are, and being able to perform in a more effortless way and a happier way. And then with companies, it's more about doing that, but at a company level. So with leadership and managers, and just really getting the best out of people. And so the whole purpose behind Thriving Scholar is to really help people just be the best version of themselves and develop more leaders in the world. And really leaders who have inner peace, who have a positive impact on others, those who also just having, by doing that, then increasing their income and are doing really well in the world. And so that's what it's all about. That's the whole mission. That's what I love doing. That's who we love to work with, those kind of ambitious people who want to not just do well externally, but understand that actually the internal work comes first, and then the external kind of results come thereafter. So yeah,
absolutely. I love that that's what you do. And I think I think more and more of us, if COVID's taught us anything, right, it's that we really need to take the time to reflect on our own selves and what's important to us, what's not so important to us, realign. It feels like there's like a realignment that's going on. You know what I mean? People are really starting to think about, okay, well, what is it that I want to do? What impact do I want to have?
Yeah.
How can I achieve that? Right. And I think, I think more people like yourselves need to be here to support those that want to make that change and that shift. And that's what I love doing as well. So, I think it's just there's just so much scope and opportunity for us to be in that space and support others in doing that. And out of that comes so much innovation as well, which I think is just the most amazing thing, because, we need to develop ourselves. And I think this kind of misconception around development in pharmacy, where we often think of it as either being something that your employer does for you, right? Because it's like identified as this is a thing that you need to develop in, and so you go off and you do a course in that thing, right?
Yeah.
Or it's this conception that I just need to learn more. I just need to build more knowledge on a particular subject area. And that's all well and good, but only if you've done the self-reflective work first.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big missing piece that we often don't place enough emphasis on. And it's certainly the journey that I've been on, and certainly the journey you've been on. And it's that piece that I think is very much missing, that we haven't placed enough emphasis on. And it requires courage, like you said, and it requires being honest with yourself, and it requires you opening up to your own passions, right?
Yeah, I love what you said there, because it's only when we come into alignment, when we have that reflection, do we then understand actually what value can we provide. And because I think, and I'm going to talk for myself in this journey, I came out being a pharmacist, and going through the whole academic education system, being kind of quite an entitled person. Well, actually, I've got a pharmacy degree. I'm a pharmacist now, and I should easily get a job, or I'm going to be successful. And I think that's something which I learned moving from the clinical side of things to the more commercial side. But actually, no, no one's going to pay me because I'm a pharmacist. The reason people are going to pay me is because it's about the value I'm delivering in the marketplace. And so when I made that shift of thinking, well, actually, it's, when I realign, actually, what can I provide? What value can I create in the world, in the marketplace, that will allow me to, firstly, yes, live my truth, but also secondly, for people to employ me, or for people to work with me, or whatever. And so I really had to have a shift of mindset, and that came when I went into the pharmaceutical industry, because coming from a kind of clinical background, I think with my lack of commercial knowledge, I kind of had a huge gap. It was a big learning curve for me. And so I had to really develop that mindset of actually providing value. And even now, of course, in business, it's the same thing. It's a question I ask myself every single day. It's like, how can I provide value? It doesn't matter what I've done in my past. The marketplace doesn't care about what I've done in my past. That no one cares. What people care about is what value can you provide to them. It's like, but when we realign, when we get reflective, then we can understand, okay, what value can I bring to others? So that's been a big shift through my journey.
Yeah, that is such an important lesson. What value can I bring? We don't really think about that, because, like you said, the entitlement, right? I certainly experienced that journey through, developing my own turmeric supplement, and almost kind of throwing myself into the business startup space, right? And it's like, when you go on that journey, when you go on the journey of entrepreneurship in general, whatever space that might be in, it is the biggest self-development journey you're going to be on. And we have to go through that experience. And like you said, you're not. The key thing is, your pharmacy doesn't define you.
Yeah.
You're not defined by pharmacy. Actually, you're defined by the value that you bring.
Yeah.
And and really, really working on that, right?
Yeah, and I think now, especially where healthcare is going, it's a much more kind of, it's moving towards a more bespoke, personalized approach, and there's a lot of different healthcare delivery systems, especially online with this new the more digital health side of things. I think especially for pharmacists, there is so much opportunity and value that they could bring. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurship. It could be something in the space of healthcare, which is ever evolving, and obviously has been rapidly evolving for the last few years, and it will continue to do that with technology. There's so much value that a pharmacist could bring. And so kind of looking back at, if I were to think about that and what advice I'd give myself a few years ago, is, well, actually, yes, you have a lot of experience in community or hospital pharmacy or industry, whatever, but actually there's so much more that you can provide, and what value can you provide in these new sectors of what's evolving. And that opens up so many opportunities, and so much thinking, creative thinking and innovation, as you mentioned. So yeah.
Definitely. I get really excited by that because I just think, I see all these amazing opportunities, and I actually, the lens through which I look at roles, because a lot of my time I spend on LinkedIn, and I spend a lot of time on, connecting with people, but also seeing what's coming up in the healthcare landscape and the healthcare space.
Yeah.
And I see roles and I think, do you know what? I could do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have pharmacist in the title, but I could definitely deliver value there.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I want other pharmacists to view the healthcare landscape. I want them to be, I don't want them to think it's the end of community pharmacy or it's the end of pharmacy as we know it. Certainly is the end of pharmacy as we know it, because it is rapidly changing, but it's evolving into something else. And it's providing new opportunities. And once you align, like you said, to your values and what's important to you, and really understanding where you can deliver that value, you can apply that to absolutely any sector. And then, and really looking at it from that lens is such an important thing to do. And that's what I definitely feel like we need to work. We need to be better at in pharmacy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's not just the pharmacy sector that's evolving. Every single sector on this planet is always going to be evolving, and so pharmacy is no different. And so just reminding ourselves that is also key.
Yeah, so true, so true. Every sector is evolving, and if you haven't noticed, then just take a look at this past year, right? It has evolved, and it has accelerated in many ways. People, we talk about how pharmacy has accelerated tenfold in the last year. Some of the things that were in the pipeline to have happened, have literally happened overnight. And that's that you could sit in the space of that's scary, but you could equally sit in the space of that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
So what's the future for Thriving Scholar? What's going to happen going forwards with Thriving Scholar? What are your plans? And what are the things that you're going to be doing over this next few months, years? Scholar?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think again, as I go through this journey, it's an ever evolving journey of finding clarity of what it is that I want to do, where I want to take things, what value, and again, as the world changes, how can I provide better value in the marketplace? So for now, the way I see it is, I'm really passionate about. There's two things which I'm really passionate about. I mean, three things really. Like coaching, of course, community, and connection. And so my whole vision with Thriving Scholar is to create a community of growth-minded, supportive, ambitious leaders who are kind of living with purpose, who are really tapping into their power, who are really performing at a high level and doing really well in the world, being great leaders in the workplace, being great leaders at home, and just really living life in a happy place and doing great work at the same time, and fulfilling their mission in their individual mission in life. So, for me, it's about developing a community and just bringing the best out in people. So, and there's different ways that we can deliver that. But yeah, that's where I'm taking things. Well, as I see it right now, and obviously kind of building the team around me as well. So, that's where I'm at right now with it. Amazing,
Janil. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
I guess they can find me on LinkedIn, on this live, or Facebook, Instagram at Jaineel Mistry. Otherwise, you can go to thrivingscholar.com and find out more about our work there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and your journey. And key learning for me is definitely what value can you bring, right?
Yeah.
And how can you deliver that value to others? And that's such an important question that we all need to be asking ourselves. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm loving everything that you're doing and what you're doing for our whole profession, really. So thank you for your work.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. And I look forward to many more conversations with you, Janil, which I'm sure are going to happen.
Right, Kamal, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So that was the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have been watching live or you're watching the replay, then do drop a little hashtag replay. I'd love to know what your biggest takeaways from today's conversation was. And do get in touch with me if you need any support with your career. I'm here to support you. And just to let you know a couple of things. So next week, we have got the amazing Janice Perkins, who is the ex-superintendent of Well Pharmacy, the third largest pharmacy chain in the UK. I cannot wait to have her on the show and talk to her about her career journey. Janice has achieved some incredible things in her career, and I can't wait for her to share them with you as well. And I am going to be running a very, very special LinkedIn masterclass for pharmacy professionals. So you've heard Janil and I talking about a little bit about LinkedIn today and those connections. And I would really, really love for you to join me on that workshop. If you are interested, then drop me a DM and I will send you details of how you can sign up to the workshop. So look forward to seeing you next week and enjoy the football tonight. Good night. Bye.